You know, over the last few decades, we've seen a ton of terrible teams. We've seen some of the worst stretches of basketball in history. Some teams intentionally tank their way to the bottom in hopes of getting high draft picks. We even saw a team break the NBA record for the lowest winning percentage in a season. It's always been like that. Every era, every generation has some bad teams. But sooner or later, those teams rebuild and recover, eventually becoming a respectable franchise. That's not the case with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Even going all the way back to the days of Kevin Garnett, it took the franchise such a long time to put a competent team around him. And even then, it only lasted for one season, the year where they finally made it past the first round of the playoffs. To have a legendary player like KG and to waste away his best years, it's a shame. Everything from bad trades to bad draft choices to mismanagement, it was a dreadful attempt to build around such a great player. Of course, then we had the Kevin Love saga, another superstar talent the Wolves wasted away. And now they've got yet another superstar big man. And yet, it's the same story over and over again. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, let's talk about the Timberwolves, a team that's only made the playoffs once since 2004. It doesn't look like that's gonna change anytime soon. What the hell has been going on in recent years? By now, most of us know the failures of this organization. When they had KG, he helped the Wolves reach their first playoff appearance in franchise history, but ultimately, it led to 7 consecutive first-round exits, as they simply could not compete in the hyper-competitive Western Conference. There was one year, in 2004, where he got some help and reached the conference finals. That was short-lived and they dropped off quickly. They even had that whole Joe Smith saga, where they were caught doing a deal under the table and got punished severely by the NBA. They had to forfeit 4 future first-round picks. Those could have been super useful, and losing those picks, that was the main reason they could not give KG enough support. Then, fast forward to 2008. The Wolves had the 5th pick and once again drafted a power forward who would be the new face of their franchise. But this time, the team couldn't even mount together a single playoff appearance. This era was plagued by horrible draft choices and the lack of free agents willing to come to Minnesota. It's not that Johnny Flynn or Derek Williams were bad selections, considering most mock drafts were pretty high on them, but just the fact that they were absolute busts and completely irrelevant. Fast forward again to 2014 and 2015, where Wiggins and Cat got drafted. Initially, they looked like a great duo, but they could not build off of their individual success. There were criticisms of Wiggins for many years, and he just couldn't make that jump to the next level. Not only that, but the only time they actually made the playoffs was with Jimmy Butler. According to him, he got fed up with a lack of commitment from his teammates, and then he bounced. Fast forward to now, it's 2021. Wiggins is gone, D'Angelo Russell got arthroscopic knee surgery. Towns has been dealing with a ton of hardship, especially with COVID, as he lost his mother and multiple relatives due to complications with it. Then, he was hospitalized after getting hit by a drunk driver. And even when he came back, the Wolves went on a massive losing streak. Now, the Timberwolves are literally the worst team in the entire league. They've been through some unfortunate circumstances, but even so, even if they were healthy, is there really much hope for them? Let's break down the roster first. Besides Cat and Russell, the other notable players include Malik Beasley, who's been having a career season, one of the better trades the Wolves made in recent years. Anthony Edwards, the #1 pick. Well, he's been taking a lot of shots, but it's gonna be a while until he gets good. Naz Reid and Jared Vanderbilt have been a pleasant surprise. Ricky Rubio looks like he's seen all of it already and wishes he was on a different team. Yet, here he is once again, back on the Wolves. Josh Okogie. A few years ago, he was a promising young prospect, an energetic hustle player who relied on outworking his opponents, but nowadays, he hit a wall. The team has better options, and Okogie's playing time gradually decreased. In previous years, when Jimmy Butler was there, the team registered the 4th best offensive rating in the entire league. but ever since he left, they went back to being a bottom-tier offense. While Cat is still playing amazingly well, it's actually been one of the worst seasons of his career. He's having a much harder time scoring, with defenses draped all over him. He's forcing up a ton of bad shots in the paint, and with not many other offensive threats on the team, opponents can focus their attention on him. Not to mention, mentally, he's just not in it. There's been too much going on in his life. His worries about COVID and how much he's lost from it, it's been haunting him for a long time. This was most apparent in early February in a game against the Charlotte Hornets. The Wolves were warming up when Cat found out PJ Washington contracted COVID, and this worried him greatly. Cat stated, "I immediately was triggered by it. It just brought up so many things I've been through. I said, Ryan, should we play this?" It brought back some horrible memories for him. What if PJ unknowingly spread it to his older family members, who have a much higher chance of dying from it? For Cat, he lost 7 family members because of things like that. He's had this mental block for the entire season, and it's hard for him to focus on just basketball. There's a ton of issues with this team, and like with any other team that's at the bottom of the standings, their stats and metrics will also be at the bottom. However, the ones that stick out the most are the turnovers and fouls. As a team, they commit around 15 turnovers and 22 fouls per game. That's awful. And the sad part is, those are things that could be changed by just being more diligent. But it's clear the lack of experience and the youth of the team is severely hampering their progress. It also doesn't help that Ryan Saunders is, or was, an extremely young coach. And before he got fired, there were so many times where he didn't know what he was doing. Even though the players supported him, Saunders' time in Minnesota was quite lackluster, with very questionable play calls, very odd lineup changes, very strange timeouts, among others. The high turnover rate can be attributed to what I like to call mindless passing. As a team, the Wolves are top 5 in the league in passes per game, which theoretically should mean that the ball movement is good and players are moving around a lot. But in reality, a lot of passes are out on the perimeter and they're not benefiting from passing the ball. They're not generating open looks from those passes. Instead, it's just leading to more turnovers. When it comes to their lineups and rotations, it almost seems completely random. This isn't just on Saunders though. The entire organization does not know which type of style they want to play. According to Dane Moore, who covers the Timberwolves, judging by how the Timberwolves have handled the rotations this year, and by cutting Hollis Jefferson, it seems very clear they really didn't want to ever play 2 bigs together. You could see that in the beginning of the season, where the Wolves were reluctant to play 2 bigs on the floor at the same time. They were aiming for some whack version of small ball, except small ball does not work if your guys can't defend crap. That slowly changed though, and when Saunders departed, the Wolves started embracing bigger lineups. Who knew that having a center and a power forward on the floor at the same time will lead to more rebounds and more second chance opportunities, which they've been surprisingly decent at. Overall, the entire coaching staff has been underwhelming. There were times throughout the season where the Wolves had a sizable lead but then blew it because they didn't want to call a timeout. One notable instance was in January against the Orlando Magic, where they blew a 20-point lead. The Magic adapted, but the Wolves could not. It's rare to see the Wolves in a close game, but in those games near the end, their execution is frankly horrible. More often than not, their late-game plays aren't very creative and usually end up with a contested jumper.
Can't hit the second. Rebound comes down to Karl-Anthony. 1 second, gets it away for the win at the buzzer. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, does that hurt?
Either that or they're too predictable and the defense can easily cut them off. Overall, in most endgame situations, you want the ball in the hands of your best perimeter player. But during D'Angelo Russell's absence, the Wolves have one of the worst backcourts in the league. It's hard to make a play if very few players can actually make a play. What's even worse is that this team is $20 million over the salary cap, which is ridiculous considering how bad and how young they are. Although most of the money is tied up with 4 players. The cap space will be freed up in the upcoming years, but now there's not much room for negotiation. It's gonna be a while before they can make drastic changes to their roster. So, as we all know, there's a lot of things wrong with this team. But what are some things they're doing right? Well, for one, this team is surprisingly deep. There's a lot of capable players down the board, and whenever someone gets plugged in, they've shown the ability to contribute. This relates to the second point I was gonna make. The player development process has been pretty good so far. Since they know they aren't gonna compete anytime soon, the bulk of the minutes are going towards the young prospects to give them a chance to develop. As a result, we've seen some nice surprises with Jared Vanderbilt, Naz Reid, Jalen Noel, and of course, Malik Beasley. All of them could be valuable assets moving forward. On one hand, it looks like the Wolves are wasting away Cat's prime, but on the other hand, they're pretty damn stacked when building for the future. The question is Towns patient enough to wait it out and give it a few more years before they can truly compete? Or will he go down the path of Anthony Davis and demand a trade when he realizes the Wolves aren't going anywhere? It's gonna be rough for the fans down the road. Thank you all so much for watching. What are your thoughts on the Wolves? How long do you think it's gonna be before they can truly become a playoff caliber team? We thought they were already there a few years back when they had Jimmy and the future was looking good. But now, they're back to square one. How long will it take for them to get back? 3, 4 years maybe? I don't know. Of every NBA team since the turn of the century, the Wolves by far have been the biggest failure. Of every NBA team since the turn of the century, the Wolves by far have been the biggest failure. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.